Hi guys, it's Nicolette again, and today I want to deal with the second process or the second step in the process of purchasing a property, and that for me basically is part of your house hunting, process where you are now have been, kind of calculating and estimated how much it is that you can afford, and you are now on your way to looking for a property. Now, first and foremost, what's really important is that you need to understand that the property buying process is quite a long one, and it's the one that you need to take with a little bit of logic and a little bit of emotional intelligence. Do not become emotional to anything. Do not make the same mistakes I made. I mean, when I was looking for a house, I literally fell in love with the first house that I saw, and it's the house that I'm currently sitting in. And if actually I do my math, the house is actually it was overpriced. So it's very important that you don't end up buying a house purely because you stepped in it, you are excited about this buying process, and you think you've fallen in love, and you have not assessed all the other things that also come with that house. And that's really probably the most important thing, because I think at some point people are logical in terms of finding the correct property at the correct price. Always be modest in terms of price, and remember that you also can negotiate prices. I always say, speak to the seller if you've got an opportunity to speak to the seller. If you don't have an opportunity to speak to the seller, speak to the real estate agent. They might not be as honest with you as you would like them to be, but they do have some level of information leaks that I always say. Things like the way they sell strategy in terms of how they're trying to sell the house. Have they put it on the website and then they've written they reduced? Sometimes that reduced thing is not really a real thing. You know what I mean? They just put it there to make you think that the house was far more expensive than that, and now it has been reduced. Sometimes they do put that reduced thing, and it might be an indication to you that maybe the seller was trying to hit very high, and maybe somebody tried to buy it and the bank actually valued it low. I know of an instance, I went looking for a house last week, and the house was placed at 1.3 million, and at 1.3 million for a 2-bedroom, I thought it was really expensive. But on the side, they actually put reduced on that house. When I spoke to the real estate agent, and she let me know that actually, there was an offer, and the house is beautiful. There was an offer of 1.3 million. Unfortunately, it fell through because when the bank came to value the house, it was actually less than 1.3 million. The house that was valued at 1.2 million. So the bank was refusing to give that home loan. So it's very important that sometimes do not sell yourself too short in terms of price. Go and do your research. I always use a company called Lightstone Property. What I do is I find out what the unit number is. Sometimes it's very tricky to find out the unit number, so you might need to go to the to the open day to kind of get what the unit number is first, and then just get the street number. You just need the street name, the complex or sectional title name, and once you've got all that information, you basically buy a property valuation and property information sheet, and this property information sheet will tell you who the seller is, when they bought, how they bought, and it'll tell you at what price their last purchase was. So you can then kind of start understanding okay, at what price, at what offer am I going to put on the table? The other thing that you can really look into is position, location, timing. Timing, it is a buyer's market right now. Follow the trends. As I say, I always say in my videos, make sure that you are buying 12 months or start the process 12 months in advance of you wanting to buy, so that you can get yourself into the system of starting to do some research of your own in terms of property, especially in the suburbs that you want to buy, but as a whole, what's actually happening in the property market in the country that you are in. So right now, it is a buyer's market in South Africa, so buyers are really going out and they're making really great deals because, as I said, it's a buyer's market, right? So that's really something that you can look at. Position is very important. I always talk about, North Riding. I don't think North Riding is a great place to buy, and I'll tell you, give you an example. North Riding always has issues with electricity, sewage systems, purely because it is overpopulated, and that's a fact. You can't even deny it. If you drive around in North Riding, the amount of sectional titles and estates and complexes that are popping up in that area, absolutely amazing. And you start to see, especially if you're buying for property investment, you will start to see that there's quite a lot of empty apartments in that area, purely because people are just not renting. And if you're buying for investment, you don't want to sit with a property that is not attractive to, tenants. That's the other thing. The other thing that you can also look at is the average rent amount, especially if you're buying for property for investment, is how much are they charging within that complex. And I'll give you an example. You buy a property for 900,000 rand, your installment is maybe 9,000 rand, and the bank wants 9,000 rand. There's also insurance, there's levies and all that stuff, and you want to make some sort of profit. You will not make profit if the average rental amount in that complex is 7.5. You will not make a profit. As a matter of fact, you'll be working towards a loss. So it's very important that you also keep those things in mind. Granted, you might make your money over the years, but how long will it take you to actually break even? So it's very important that you also look at the complex that you're buying. And I always judge complexes and estates by the gate. I'm sorry. For me, the gate is important. The gate needs to look attractive. The gate must not be small. It mustn't have, visitors and residents all going in at the same gate. I just can't. I always say my buying strategy is always, if I can live in that complex, I'm happy to buy it, especially when it comes to property for investing. Very, very important to me. If I can live in it, I will buy it. If I can't live in it, I'm not going to buy it, because how do I convince the tenant to move into that place? Also, look at the estate. Look at how it's managed, who it's managed by. And also the other thing that you might look at is also developers who develop that estate. Hence, it's a very long process. So that's why we always say 12 months in advance, start doing your research, start looking for the property that you want to invest in. These things will really assist you. And also look at the minimum number of bedrooms, because sometimes, we assume that a 3-bedroom house at a cheap rate is really attractive. But when it comes to renting, people are very unlikely, especially in South Africa, in a country like this, to look for 3-bedroom houses. 1-bedroom houses do really exceptionally well. They are quite highly priced in terms of buying and in terms of renting. So you might make a very good rental return on that. But 2-bedroom houses usually are the standard in this country, and sometimes I always say this to people, it's very attractive to have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but it shoots up the rental price. So be very careful also of 2-bedroom, 2-bath, because the price of the apartment might shoot up. But when it comes to rent, you might still need to bring down your rent so that you can match up with and average it out with everybody else that's in the complex. Because again, if they're charging 7.5, there's absolutely no way you can charge 9,000 rand. You're going to struggle when it comes to tenants. So those are some of the things that you also need to be looking at. Look at the security. Security is very important, guys. Security is very important. But also the other thing that we also speak about is, more than just security, get to know who the estate management company is. Get an understanding of who it is. Do they have any good experience? Have they done this before? Which other complexes are they managing? So you can kind of go and see what's actually happening. I once drove in a complex that I was going to buy for investment, and there was just damp water everywhere, and I couldn't understand why the damp water was there. And maybe it's unfortunate that it probably was just that specific day, but I was totally turned off. And I knew that if I'm turned off, it means that the tenants that are going to look at this property are probably also going to get turned off. So I was not interested at all. The other thing you need to be looking at is amenities. Especially, I always say amenities, whether you are buying to rent or buy to live in, are very important. Schools, shopping centers, hospitals, clinics, all those things are really going to be important. And for me, the other thing that's really important is a place for me to jive and to club. I'm not trying to live very far away from those kind of places. I'm sorry. Also, sometimes it makes sense. You need to think about it in terms of where you work. You can either live close and not have to travel and save up on your transport costs, or you can live far, pay a cheaper rent and kind of wait out with your transport costs. So really, what you are buying is an asset. So it's very important that you buy in areas that look like they might be appreciating. Understand the area. And sometimes you need to know when to pull out and when to stay. It's very important. That's why we talk about position. But basically, that's really all that there is in terms of, you looking for the ideal house. Use every single website that is available to you. Property 24, private property. Look if the house is in good condition. Remember that if you want the seller to make any improvements to the house, you can ask them. It's okay for you to actually ask and say, I will buy it and if you fix the bathroom. I'll buy it if you fix the curtain rails. I'll buy it if you fix the kitchen. All those small things. Make sure that, I always say, don't try and take a a decreased price in terms of buying because you negotiating based on some broken things in the house, because sometimes it might look like it's going to be cheap for you to fix certain things and then it's not. Then what happens? So you need to also keep those things in the back of your mind to say, if you are negotiating based on things that you will fix and then you come in low in terms of your price and the seller says yes, and a seller that is very quick to say yes to a negotiated and a highly negotiated price is probably hiding something. So it's very important that you also keep in mind and keep that at the back of your head. Sometimes what you think is a bargain might become a huge financial loss and a surprise to you later on in life. So because they sell their properties footstoots, which means basically any patent or latent defects, they can basically say that if we are selling you, we don't know anything about them right now. So it means that you are buying the property as is with all those things. So that's also very important. Also, the other thing is, if you're going to be living in that area, also if you're renting, ask yourself if it's pet friendly, if it's child friendly. All those things are also going to be important. The one other thing that I judge complexes by is the cars that are parked outside in the carports and in the garages, because I'm just like, you know what I mean? I judge places based on the cars that are parked outside. I just want a certain LSM in terms of the people that are renting, in terms of the people that are buying in that area. I know it's very biased and it might be a silly strategy, but it's worked for me so far, and I employ it every single time I'm looking for any type of investment property. That is the strategy that I employ. So yeah, man, does it also make sense in terms of your bottom line? Very, very important. Bottom line, absolutely important. And I always say also, get yourself understanding the types of property, whether it's a loft, in terms of levels, whether it's a loft, does your loft have good views? Is it worth for you to buy a loft? Garden floors, garden units, is there a maintenance system for the grass, for the outside? All those things are really going to be important in terms of you finding the correct property. Mwah! Remember that you can follow me on Facebook. It is Financial Literacy with Nicolette Mashile. I'm also on YouTube as Nicolette Mashile for any more property tips, money management tips. Let's get rich. Let's find this money. Let's make the money. Let's manage the money. Robert Kiyosaki always says the problem with poor people is not the fact that they don't have access to money or they can't make money. The problem is that they don't know how to keep money. And how do you keep money? You buy income-driven, income-making assets. Property is one of those.